everyone, welcome to my channel. My channel is all about travel, how to elevate your travel by using points and miles, and now about personal finance and how to get your money right so that you can get credit cards and travel hack and not spend any extra money to travel on the more luxury side of things. I've been taking a break from some of my points and miles videos and kind of going back in time and talk about how I got to where I am now, and hacking with travel and using points and miles to elevate my travel. In today's video, I'm going to talk a little bit about my debt-free journey. In prior videos, I've talked about how now I live a debt-free life, except for my mortgage, which hopefully I'll be paying off early. And so I just wanted to take some time today to talk about how I became debt-free. And really, if I can do it, anyone can do it. A little bit about my background. I grew up in a house where, I think like most people, my parents took care of the money things. I knew there was a little stress around it. I'm one of 6 kids, so there never seemed to be enough money to go around. But more often than not, they just kind of took care of business and didn't really talk that much about money to me. And so growing up, I just was like, okay, I gotta pay bills, I gotta eat, I got rent, I got a car payment. Like, this is just what happens. And so early on in college, like a lot of people, I signed up for credit cards because they gave away a free t-shirt or free pizza or whatever on campus. And then I expanded to store credit cards. I remember I would shop at Old Navy all the time. And so I had my little Old Navy credit card and I would get clothes on that. I had a Macy's credit card, just a whole lot of debt. And yeah, I just thought that like everyone, you get credit cards, you buy stuff, you pay a little bit more than the minimum, and you just kind of keep that cycle going. And so I had these credit cards. I graduated college, went on to grad school, moved to a different city, purchased a house. And this was all in like 2008 when I purchased a house. And then everything kind of fell out. My debt-free story really has 2 iterations. One that happened in 2008 and another one that happened in about 2015. So in 2008, I'd moved to a new city. I purchased a house. I had a bunch of credit card debt from college and grad school and just shopping and spending without really having a budget. So 2008, we know, was a big financial crisis, and I had this mortgage and I was just trying to make things happen, and then things got really tight and really hard. And whereas before I would consistently make minimum payments, with 2008 and how the economy tanked, I wasn't able to make minimum payments anymore. And so I started stressing out. I didn't know what to do. My credit score tanked because I wasn't making the minimum payments. I had collections calling and just all of this stuff because it was a hot mess. And so it was then that I first started thinking about, okay, not living debt-free necessarily, but just like paying off the debt. And so I just started to read and look for different resources. And I came across one financial guru who had a really good method for how to kind of get yourself back in a good financial footing. And along with that method came cutting up your credit cards. And I think for me at that time, I really needed to stop using credit cards. So I appreciate the cutting up of credit cards. But at the same time, I think that was a little too extreme for me because I wasn't making minimum payments. My credit was tanking. And then as I continued to try to get out of debt initially in 2008, I wasn't doing much to try to build back my credit score. And so had I kept some credit cards and maybe like froze them or cut them up, but kept the accounts open, the ones that I had already paid off or had a balance that I could pay off just to keep that credit history, that might have been a little more helpful. But I was all in. And so I was able to kind of start thinking through how I spend money, being intentional about spending money, and starting to pay off debt. So I'm doing that. I'm not really paying off debt at the level that I wanted to because there's just other things happening in 2008, and I was doing this all while I was a teacher. So doing this on a teacher salary, those of you that are in education know that the teacher salary doesn't stretch that far. So just doing what I could. And then come 2012, when I decided to go back to graduate school. And so I was still kind of doing the same thing. I wasn't taking on any new consumer debt because I didn't have credit cards. I was still trying to pay off the debt, but it wasn't like, I just didn't have that fire. I didn't have that goal. I was paying what I could when I could and just not accumulating any more debt. So in 2015, there's just a lot of things that happened in my life. And then I got super serious about not only paying off the debt that I had, but also intentional about not getting into any more consumer debt, and as well as trying to increase my credit score. And so I hadn't had credit cards, and I knew one way to increase my credit score was to get credit cards and charge a little bit each month and pay that off in full. So that's kind of how I started getting more comfortable with credit cards. I think from 2008 to 2015, I got comfortable with my spending and not relying on credit cards. So in 2015, I could go back to them and start to use them responsibly. So I had credit cards. I had my very first Secure card again, because remember, my credit was low. I wasn't doing anything to improve it. And so it had gone down even further. So I got a Secure credit card. I remember using that for gas and then paying that off once a week. And so I was doing that. I increased my earnings. So I'm in graduate school. I had a graduate assistantship and a fellowship that paid for most of my fees, but I had this debt. Now I'm like, okay, I definitely want to pay off this debt. I need to get it done now. So I took on a couple of side hustles. I was a tutor. I did mystery shopping. What else did I do? I consulted for a company and wrote like test questions. Anything and everything that I could do on the side, I was doing, so that way I could put that money towards debt. So at that time, I had a car loan still that I was paying off. I had some credit card debt that I had student loans that were in deferment while I was in school. And I think that those were my biggest debts. So I just went on side hustle mode. So I was full-time as a graduate student, and then about another 40 hours a week of just getting in my side hustle. I didn't see any of that money. It went straight towards paying off my debt. So as I said, I also had student loan debt, and I was very intentional about my student loan debt. And I was a teacher, so I was able to use the teacher loan forgiveness to get some of my loans forgiven. And then I knew that I was going to do the public service loan forgiveness process to get the rest of my loans forgiven. And so I was able to reach that 10 years of payment, in part due to some of the changes that happened recently, and then using previous years of payments to count towards my payments now. And then the COVID pause really helped getting those payment, because you have to make 120 payments before your loans are forgiven under the public service loan forgiveness. But in October, those loans were forgiven. So I did my side hustles to pay off my credit cards and my car loan at the time. I was using my jobs in a way as a job as a teacher and a job in public service to pay off the rest of my student loans. And then I was also using my side hustle and the income that I have to get myself in a place where I didn't have to take on any more consumer debt. So after I had paid off my car in about 2015 I started. I paid off my car in 2016, and then my car just stopped in 2018. And it got to the point where the cost of the repairs were more than the car itself. And I had been saving money knowing that this was going to happen, and I didn't want to go out and get more consumer debt. I had a good chunk of change that I took with me to the car dealership to get my car. No, it was 2017 when I paid for my car in cash, and that ever since then I have not had any consumer debt. My loans were forgiven in October, so that kind of zeroed out my student loan debt to the extent of almost $200,000, but that's a whole another story about how I had that much student loan debt. And now I am debt free with the exception of my mortgage. And I'm working hard and diligently to pay off my mortgage early. And as I've said in previous videos, this just helps me just breathe and sleep well and not worry about what's coming down the road and just all the stress that came with carrying debt. So if you have any questions specifically about my debt-free journey, if you have any comments, go ahead and put them below. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe if you like this content. I know this is a little deviation from what I normally do, but feel free to look at some of my other videos and subscribe. And I would love to hear too if you live debt-free, and I would love to hear about your journey. So put those comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye.